Okay, so it's October 7th. Wake up, regular start of my day, eat breakfast, and in the middle of the day, I was like, hey, let's check Robinhood because money. And I'm scrolling down, looking at all my stocks, see Metamaterial at the bottom, and then I see something else. What is that? What is up, guys? My name is Darren Jackson. Welcome back to yet another video. And just like a lot of you guys this week, I was really confused about what I saw when I scrolled down on my brokerage account to check my stocks, including Metamaterial. I had a lot of questions on my mind, and obviously the main question that all of us had on our minds is, what is MMTLP? So one side of me was a little nervous because I immediately thought, okay, something's wrong with my preferred shares. They must be gone. I'm not gonna get my dividends or my spinoff or whatever. The other side of me was thinking, okay, maybe this is a good thing because now it's worth something. Something good's actually happening. Honestly, wasn't sure at all, but I figured who would be sure about something going on with Metamaterials, none other than the company Metamaterials themselves. So the first thing I did was go online to metamaterials.com, went on the news section, and they know nothing. Okay, so after that, I decided to go on trusted websites such as Twitter and Reddit, and a lot of people were having conversations about this. It seemed like a lot of people were coming up with their own theories of what MMTLP could have been, and a lot more people were just freaking out in general. And same thing with YouTube. I went on YouTube and typed in MMTLP and scrolled down and saw all these great YouTubers that already have videos out about this subject. And I was just kind of all over the place. It seemed crazy, but it was really beneficial to know that people are at least having conversations. People on Reddit are making posts, they're getting uptip votes, people are commenting on them, so conversations are being had. And more importantly, at least for me as an investor who is fairly new to the game in comparison to a lot of other people and assumed that something like this was normal, all the theories that have come up have been helpful for me into kind of getting a better idea of what's going on. So hopefully by the end of this video, we can talk about some of the theories that I personally thought of and some of the theories that a lot of you guys have thought of on these websites. So if you guys aren't new to Metamaterials and you invested into Torchlight, then a lot of you guys knew about the brand new news of the preferred shares. You knew there was two different options that we were gonna have by the end of this year. That leads me to my first assumption that I had was that Torchlight sold an asset. So we all know that one of the agreements of the acquisition or the arrangement was that Torchlight had to sell their assets by the end of the year. And once those assets were sold, all outstanding shares would be attached with a preferred stock dividend. And for every share that you had of Torchlight prior to the acquisition or the arrangement, you would get a share of the preferred stock dividend worth the total value of all the assets. So it could either have been one transfer into your account, or they could sell multiple assets at different periods of time and you would get different deposits into that preferred share. So that's what I thought was going on. But that automatically got debunked for one really important reason. So when I first noticed MMTLP, it was roughly about 70 cents per share. The next day it was at 90 cents per share. Then it got up to $1, then $2, then $3, and now it's kind of back to $2 or in the late $1 range. Point is, an asset shouldn't be that liquid. It's moving like it's a stock. So obviously there's more to this and it can't be that. So that automatically led me to my second theory, which is the other side of this coin of what could happen by the end of this year, is that of course a spinoff happened. So we know the other option with Torchlight is if by the end of this year, if they're not able to sell all their assets, the remaining assets would be converted and spun off into a different company. We don't know what the company is. We have no details of that, but a lot of people may have assumed, including myself, okay, MMTLP is the second company. Sounds very much like Metamaterials, so we looked into it and it was automatically debunked as well. If you look it up on websites, maybe like NASDAQ, it shows you that it's Metamaterials. I think there was even news that the details of it were about Torchlight from years ago. So this obviously wasn't it either, especially because we didn't know about it and people from Metamaterials haven't released any news and claim to not know about it either. And on top of that, they have until the end of the year to sell all their assets. So if they were to create a spinoff at the beginning of October, it kind of sounds like they gave up on selling it or no one was really attracted to it. So I didn't really think that was the case at all. So obviously this has nothing to do with what could potentially happen by the end of this year with their assets, whether we get the spinoff or we get the preferred stock dividend. This is something else. This is something that a lot of us, including myself, haven't seen before. I went back on Reddit the other day and I saw this headliner that a lot of people were upticking or upvoting and commenting on. And it basically said the worth of MMTLP isn't the actual dividend itself. It's pretty much a symbol of you buying the rights to obtain the dividend. And I'll be honest with you guys, that automatically didn't make more sense to me. As a matter of fact, it created more questions. For starters, what about the record date? Again, if you guys are like me and you invested into Torchlight before it was arranged with Metamaterials, then you know in order to qualify for this preferred stock dividend of whatever value ends up being, you had to have invested into Torchlight by this given record date. It's the same concept for any type of stock that pays a dividend. And you have the ex-dividend date, which ends up being a day before the record date, which means you have to invest into it the day before the ex-dividend date. Now the record date, I believe, was June 24th, which means you would have had until June 22nd, and I think I heard on the rare occasion June 23rd for some people, I'm not sure how that happened, to invest into Torchlight to qualify for the dividend. So basically in hindsight, when June 24th happens, they'll open their books and see a list of people that invested by the day prior to the ex-dividend date and the amount of shares that they invested into Torchlight. And they'll say, hey, you get X amount of shares of this preferred stock dividend of whatever value it becomes. But if that's the case, and that should already be written down, then how are people able to buy more stake into this dividend? And is the amount of MMTLP shares that you have equated to the amount of preferred stock dividends that you could have? So if you had 100 originally and then this all happened, you bought 100 more, now you have 200. Do you get 200 shares? And honestly, thinking about it, it kind of makes sense because the preferred stock went to all outstanding shares that Torchlight has, aka every share that they have in the stock market. And it's very possible, it's about 100% possible, that not every stock that Torchlight has was being traded in the stock market. There were shares just sitting there because the volume of people wasn't high enough. So it's very possible that you could still buy and sell more stocks that haven't been obtained that still have a preferred stock dividend, and you could potentially get more dividends. But that was really weird. And again, I've never heard of that before. And I wanted to know, why is this all coming all of a sudden? And why is this only eligible for certain brokers and other brokerages? They only let you sell and now you can't sell anymore. It was really confusing. And that led me to the fourth theory, which was a culmination of YouTubers and people on Twitter and people on Reddit and other websites like StockTwits, and everything they're saying is all coming to this universal truth of something that we've talked about almost as much as this potential merger or partnership between Metamaterials and Tesla. But this is obviously something that's happening right now. We all have a little bit more evidence. And that's this whole situation between the retail investors and the hedge funds. So the fourth theory is that this was created by hedge funds. So once I heard that, my first question was, well, how does that happen? So I'm honestly not 100% sure about how that actually happens, but it definitely involves hedge funds and money makers and them having the ability to turn a preferred share into a regular stock, but with the catch of it being on the OTC or the over-the-counter market. Now, we talked about over-the-counter markets before on this channel. It's basically a type of market that has a lot less policing. They don't really have to follow SEC guidelines, or at least some of the stocks are in there don't have to follow those guidelines, which allows them to potentially manipulate the investors. There may not be a lot of news on the potential stock you're investing into, let alone any news at all. You're just kind of blindly investing into it. Hopefully it works out. So it would have to be a market like that that would allow a preferred stock dividend to be traded like a regular stock, which also makes sense because that explains why certain brokerage accounts such as Robinhood only allowed you to sell and now they don't do anything at all. And other brokerage accounts like Fidelity and I believe TD Ameritrade allowed you to buy and sell. So once we kind of figured that out, the next question was, okay, why are they doing that? And I'm pretty confident that the answer to that, especially because of what I'm hearing from you guys, is because they want to cover shorts. That's another big subject we talked about with this whole short squeeze situation. You basically have large groups of hedge funds borrowing shares from brokers to sell a company, and hopefully they can buy back at a cheaper price and return those shares, assuming that the price is going to lower because they don't believe in the company, and they get a profit from that. So basically, they're profiting from the losses of a particular company, whether they believe it's genuinely not going to work out, or they're actually trying to apply pressure to retail investors such as myself that it won't work out, causing retail investors like myself to sell. Unfortunately for them, things were able to work out in our favor, and the price of Metamaterial started to skyrocket because Metamaterials is seemingly a great company with not too many issues, and it's on the ground level, and we can all see it just going up from here. And because of that, they start to lose money. And what sucks for these hedge funds and people shorting the stock is that the amount of money you could lose is infinite because the price could shoot up to X amount of dollars. That part's infinite as well. So there had to be a way that they could pressure people into dropping the price down. So it seems like one of those ways is to be able to offer MMTLP as a tradable stock on certain brokerages and cause the price to go up, persuading people that were holding onto those preferred shares to sell at a specific price, which I'm sure a lot of people did at $2 to $3 a share. You can visually see it. You see the price go up for people buying and then the price go down for people selling, just like any other stock. But what's really unfortunate is that, yes, they're taking a lot of profits, but there's so much that's not known about it. There's people believing that if you sell, you're then selling your rights to your dividend, which was based off theory number 3 that I read on Reddit. And then there's other theories that if you sell, it's still totally different from the actual preferred stock dividend. So you're still making profits and you're still going to get your actual dividends for the preferred stock that you had based off the record date of June 24th. There's a lot that doesn't make sense to me, but it does seem like a lot of market manipulation, which is why a lot of people are just saying, do not sell, just hold on to them. This is exactly what we want to happen. The profit's going to continue to rise. And I honestly agree with that. I honestly think that's the safer way, but if a lot of you guys are actually buying and selling those preferred shares, let me know what's been going on with your end and how's everything been going with that, because I am really curious. Now, what's crazy is that this situation with hedge funds seems to go a lot deeper as far as how they're trying to manipulate this particular stock so they're not having to cover as many shorts, so they're not losing as much money, or by some miracle, shorting the stock is actually going to become a benefit for them and they're going to press the price of Metamaterials down to practically zero. Seems like something similar as to what happened to stocks like GameStop and AMC. And it has to do with a term that I heard about a decent amount of times while I was doing my research called seller boxing. So make sure you check out this video so you can hear more about that, at least when it comes out. It might be another video, but make sure you guys check that out. And I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, take care.